All right, I think we are getting started. We are right at 7 o'clock. Welcome to our June regular board meeting. And we have a couple of board members that are on their way and they'll be arriving shortly, but we'll go ahead and get the meeting started. Debbie, if you would note attendance. And we will begin with the flag salute. The flag is over here to my right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I think Scott is going to read our meeting norms tonight.
Meeting norms, Superintendent Board Operating Agreement for 2020-2021. Number 1, members of the board and superintendent shall work together as a team, modeling willingness to learn together. 2, board members shall recognize and respect the superintendent's responsibility to manage the school district and to direct employees in district and school matters. 3, board members shall give careful consideration, listening to all perspectives, to all issues brought to the board by individuals and district leadership. 4, the board shall make decisions only at properly called meetings. Board members recognize that individual board members have no authority to take individual action in policy or district and school administrative matters unless so authorized by board vote. Communication agreements. Number 1, board members shall follow the chain of command and communicate directly with the superintendent when a question arises, or a concern or complaint is voiced by a staff member, student, parent, or community member. Number 2, board members shall communicate directly with the superintendent or board chair prior to meetings of the board to address questions and or concerns about agenda items. And number 3, when a board member and or the superintendent has an individual concern, he or she shall communicate one-on-one with any member of the board superintendent team as appropriate.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to our agenda review. I would accept a motion to approve the agenda as published.
I move to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Jonathan,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
All right. That moves us to our consent agenda, which is also published on Board Book. I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second it?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Jonathan,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Tom,
Aye.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
All right. Well, that brings us right to our school/principal report, and we have Katie Beckett presenting tonight.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Okay, I double click. Okay. What?
Do you have a
I don't have a PowerPoint or
Okay.
anything, just this. Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you about Mark Twain Elementary. So Mark Twain, we have 262 kids that we serve in kindergarten through 5th grade. As you can see in our student population chart, we have right around 40 students in each grade level. We have a bubble at 2nd grade that's around 60. And I've done some reconfiguring to solve that problem going into next year. We'll have 3 3rd grade classes, a 4th grade, a 4-5 blend, and a 5th grade. So our class sizes should be very nice going into next year. I'll just let you look at this. We have our student demographics by grade level. And just a little bit about Mark Twain and sort of who we are or who we're becoming to be. It's located obviously in town, and we serve 262 students. Previously, for years, Mark Twain has been a K-2 building. So this is our first year being K-5, and as you all well know. You know, I kind of use this as an example. We have, as if you've been in there lately, we have one long hallway where all of our classrooms are located, and what lines the hallway are a bunch of lockers, because obviously we were a middle school, and it's pretty cute to go down to those kindergarten, first grade, second grade classrooms and see our littlest people going in and out of their locker like it's no big deal. And it's just an example of how I think our staff and our building has adapted to all of the change and challenges that we were presented with this year, from bringing kids back into full-time in-person learning following COVID pandemic, all the protocols that we had to follow. And I'm glad I get to be here at the end of the year, because I'm sure you've heard a whole lot about that, but to be on this side of that is it's a relief, and it feels like a memory at this point, but you know, and then just the endless rain, like it seems like one challenge after another, but really what I'm most excited to report to you is where our staff is. We're much stronger now than we were at the beginning, and my number one goal this year was to begin to establish a positive school culture and climate between the staff and students. And that really has become a foundation that I think will be the beginning of our academic success in the future. So I'm excited about that. So our building goals are pretty standard. I think you've heard these quite a bit, but students making adequate growth in math and reading based on STAR assessments. We have created an environment where all students feel seen and heard and valued. That's our goal. Creating a community in partnership with families that connect for the well-being of each student. And we use our Youth Truth surveys, student and parent surveys, to look at that information and data. And then our facilities, we wanted to develop a strong parent-teacher club that didn't necessarily exist at Mark Twain before, to identify needs that can be addressed by our community, and also taking part in the listening sessions to really hear what people want from a bond in both facilities and programming. And our actions, one of the things I'm most proud of my staff for this year is really their level of engagement in our standards-based unit mapping and PLC work. You can imagine at the beginning of the year, with all of the daunting tasks and challenges before us, that this was a top priority for me. So my goal was to remove whatever barriers I could remove to that work and really keep focused on it. And my teachers have done an incredible job with this effort, setting themselves up for success in the future. I wanted to establish a strong feedback process for teachers to utilize in that mapping with both edX and also with me, so that's been successful. And also at Mark Twain, we're beginning to develop our PBIS and RTI systems with screening assessments and establishing some standards of practice, including 90-minute reading blocks, 60-minute math with services, supplemental services outside of that, as also with universal expectations for behavior and an acknowledgement system. So that has started. And we're also going to begin to revamp our meeting and data team process at the school, so that's exciting as well. We established weekly guidance lessons that were directly related to our SEL work, dedicated to trauma-informed response to student behavior. And also established a strong leadership team that meets monthly to help with our school-wide efforts, including parent involvement planning. So really, we are just getting started. I'm a data-informed person, and I don't have a ton of that to get, at my fingertips right now, but we are well on our way to getting those systems established, and I'm just really excited about all of it.
Very good. Any questions? Thoughts?
Questions for Katie?
Great presentation.
Yes, thank
I
you.
appreciate getting
Thank
to
you.
know you a little bit.
I know,
Yeah,
I know.
this is great.
Sorry about the first time I was supposed to be here. But I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie.
Okay, that brings us to our SFVA presentation. Oh, yeah, come on up.
Allison asked if I would give this on behalf of SFVA, just the monthly update, and it is my last board meeting probably as an employee of the school district, so I was pretty excited to get the chance to just thank you all in person for your service as we close out this year. So we're wrapping up what I've heard a lot of teachers call their most challenging year to date, teachers who have been in education for a really long time or a short time, but I feel like we would be really remiss if we missed the opportunity to not acknowledge that it wasn't just hard on teachers. It was hard on board members, it was hard on families, it was hard on kids, and it was hard on administrators, and that there's no way we would have made it here to this last week of school without basically an army of people working together to make it happen. And that also, despite the fact that it was very difficult, we're really, really proud that we were able to make it work and keep, you know, with the changing of things throughout the year, keep kids in school. And that was, that's something we're very proud of. So we also are really wanting to express that we are thankful for the responsiveness of our board and our administrators when we have expressed concerns about workload and burnout and the collaboration we were able to have together and model for our students and community. As we go into summer, a lot of the teachers and we have talked about thinking about how to rest and care for ourselves and our families so that we can be refreshed and show up next school year. That being said, there are quite a few teachers, myself included, who will be leaving the district and possibly teaching as a profession. So just there are people who are definitely sure they're leaving, and then there are people who are maybe like me who are gonna take a year and do some other work, and then I hope I wanna come back to teaching, but I'm just not totally sure yet. But in light of the number of teachers leaving, which we know is not isolated to Silver Falls, we know that it's just something that's going on in a lot of different workforces, but education in particular, SFVA is developing an exit survey to use and collect some data from teachers who are leaving. And we're hoping that survey will allow us to assess patterns and problems, as well as successes in our workplaces, and things that have gone really well. So just one final time, I wanted to thank you all for your service to Silver Falls and Silver Falls School District, and yeah, that's our report for this month from SFVA.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you.
All right. Well, at this point, I'm going to officially mention that we're opening the budget hearing for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. And later on, there will be an opportunity to officially adopt the budget. So that moves us into public comment. And while people are thinking about if they have something they'd like to add, I will read the statement that we read at the beginning of each of these. We are glad you are here and welcome you to address the board at this time with your ideas, concerns, or compliments. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand to be recognized by me. If you are attending remotely, please either email Board Secretary Debbie Voloff or put your request in the chat feature of Zoom. I think the hand raising is also enabled. Before beginning your comment, please provide for the record your name, address, relationship to the district, and subject of your comment. In order to ensure equity among speakers, remarks are limited to 3 minutes per individual. If a group of 3 or more wishes to appoint a representative, the comment time will be extended to 5 minutes. A second public comment period will occur later in the agenda that is specific to our action items and discussion items of the meeting. Please be aware that the board's role during public comment period is to listen. Rarely will members of the public receive an immediate response to their questions or comments. Finally, the board will not hear complaints against individual district staff or board members during the public comment period. Remember that we all model the way for our students. We ask that you share your thoughts respectfully and in accordance with the board's decorum policy. Thank you. And with that said, if anybody in the room is interested, please come on up and we'll begin with in the room. Yeah, come on up.
All right, good evening. My name is Sfva Presentation. We live in Salem, Oregon, and we've been attending Central Hal for, well, since 2013. My daughter just graduated 8th grade on Friday night, and she started kindergarten in 2013 at Central Hal. So I'd like to start off by saying greetings to Silver Falls School Board, Superintendent, supporting staff, and Silver Falls community. Thank you for serving this community, and thank you for listening to me tonight. I'm here tonight as a caring parent and a grateful member of Central Hal community. Again, my name is Sfva Presentation. Didn't plan on saying that twice. My husband Eric and I live in Salem with our 2 daughters, Lexi, who just graduated from Central Hal, and Jody, who will be a 6th grader at Central Hal next fall. We started attending Central Hal when Lexi was in kindergarten, and we discovered Central Hal from a friend who grew up in the same small corner of Oregon where I grew up, Coos County. I graduated from Coquille, and it's a really small community. So when we found Silver Falls and Central Hal, we were thrilled because it just fit. We knew that that was where we wanted our kids to grow up, is in a community where you would know people when you walk into the store, and we just wanted that kind of experience. So we were very excited to do that, and the girls have had a wonderful school experience. Our family has had a wonderful experience at Central Hal. We have many people at Central Hal who are as close as family to us, and that is extremely important. Speaking to a parent recently, and she described Central Hal as our beloved school, and that is so true for most Central Hal families. It's long time families are there, and it's just such a blessing. And as with most of our outlying K through 8s, active parents play a big role at the school and add to the rich environment. Parents want to come alongside the teachers and staff, and they want to pour into the students. We want to set high expectations for educational outcomes, and we really want to create that extra layer of school fun by doing some extra activities. So we try to help out with any kind of, music programs or other things that will just add depth to the kids' school, talent shows, whatever it takes. The parents want to be a part of that. Tonight I want to highlight several wins for Central Hal this year. We have been blessed with fresh energy and zeal for rigorous academic standards, and this has been a wonderful breath of fresh air for us. There's been such a focus each month on
30
character
seconds.
traits. Okay. So we've had character traits focus. We've had an open door policy with our leadership that has let us parents come forward with concerns that was not open before. There's been a commitment to community events, which helped us to continue our relationships even through this COVID thing. Our sports programs really did well this year, and we were very proud of them. We also had from leadership a new music opportunity. We had
That's
band
time.
students that were able to go into the in-town school. And again, we just thank you for your time.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Looking your way, Dan, you often let me know. Is there anybody with
I
a
will
hand?
let you know if anyone raises their hand online.
All right. Anybody else in the room? Come on up.
We do have one Jonathan after this.
Okay.
My name is Peggy Hart. I live in Silverton. I guess relevant to this, what I'm going to say, knowing you're short of subs, I put an application. I'll mention that a little bit again later. I've done that before. in an inner-city school in the Bay Area. I want to thank our town for letting me know I didn't come to the meeting last time about your decision about concealed carry. And I want to thank my neighbor because we had a nice discussion about an hour ago. I was livid, and I'm not any longer. She has a child in this school, and so I have a couple things to say about that. She said the children were not consulted about that decision before it was made, which I think is relevant. So let me say a few things. As I said, I worked in the Bay Area in a school, a tough school. We had a metal detector, which my neighbor and I agreed was probably a good alternative. She was saying she was angry, and if she were a teacher, she'd be nice to have a gun. And don't get me wrong, I was raised with guns. People who are raised with guns are taught to respect them. If you're going to have guns on the school, the teachers should be trained. All the students should have gun safety so that they can learn to respect guns. And the thing that, I hate to invoke my father in this kind of situation, but the thing that he said about having a gun to protect yourself, he always said to us, if you're going to have a gun to protect yourself, you have to be willing to use it. And as my neighbor said, every teacher should be asked that question. It's a serious question. It's not a game. And the other thing that I think Raina, my neighbor, and I talked about, if it's concealed carry, okay, it's fine. If it's concealed carry, that means kids are going to have guns. No one's going to know who's got a gun. And she had her daughter's boyfriend, her daughter's a freshman, had a gun pointed to his head because his cousin's friend was insulted. And I have a friend in the Bay Area whose grandson cannot go out in public because some girl was miffed. And so she told her friends, and they put it on Facebook, and he can't go out anymore. Okay, I just want to say, Kaiser Salem said no to this, and I'll probably work for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel, can you promote Eliza as panelist?
Hello, can you hear me?
Well, kind of, Eliza. Let's hope it clears up.
I'm sorry.
That's better.
Yeah.
Hello.
It sounded
This
better.
is Eliza Torlin on Abiqua, the parent of a sophomore at Silverton High School and a fourth grader at Butte Creek School. As the school year wraps up, I want to acknowledge all the effort our schools have made to resume routine and learning at our schools. Thank you to our educators and all the staff, and including administrators, secretaries, cooks, custodians, and bus drivers that have worked so diligently to bring our kids to school this year. My kids, and frankly, our family, are so grateful to go to school every day, all year. I know you've worked extra hard to bring our students on track, and you've gone above and beyond to meet our needs. Thank you. I hope next year is easier. I hope we all can brave the inevitable struggles with grace and keep our future, the kids, at our center. Thank you to our volunteer community members who are also our school board for keeping us moving forward. A special thanks to the policy work group that helped move well over 100 policies through the board this past year. Dawn Tacker, who had designed an impressive system of communication about the recommended policies, along with Melissa Cipher-Briggs and Dixon Bledsoe and Janet, Mr. Drew, and Mr. Bush. who all kept the policy train rolling. Here's to hoping our next year presents fewer challenges and a willingness to manage whatever comes with kindness, compassion, and enthusiasm. I really appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliza. Anybody else in the room? Anybody else online?
Nobody else online?
Okay. I just want to mention one thing, just because I don't want to have anybody leave here confused. Previous public comment sort of implied that KGBB would have allowed students and staff to concealed carry, and that's just not the case. So I just wanted to make sure that was very clear, that that was a... I don't want to get into, I'm just trying to make sure that was clear. That was not part of the proposed policy. So, okay. Let's move on to administrator and staff reports. And we are going to begin with the K-8 music work group presentation.
So we're going to move up here, John. Daniel, is it safe to say I'm using a mouse this evening and not a, oh, we got it.
Yep.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, board, for allowing us to present tonight. I mentioned in the fall that we would be, at some point this year, would be addressing a topic that has been a source of much discussion over the past number of years here in Silver Falls, and that no matter what was on our plate at the time, that by the time the year was out, that we would be addressing at least in large part a foundational part of bringing music education to our K-12 system here. And so I've asked Sfva Presentation, music teacher extraordinaire here at our in-town schools, and Adam Kenzie. Adam has been a big part of the music work group as well. So what I'd like to do is provide you first with some context around the work group, sort of the why behind that, and then I'd like to turn it over to Leslie Roach, our Director of Teaching and Learning, to walk you through what the process looked like. And then I'd really like the rest of the time to be for our two guests to share their experiences. So a lot like when we had the long-range facilities planning group members, committee members, that was a board committee, share. Our two guests here have received very similar direction in terms of just sharing exactly how it felt to go through the process and what their experiences were. So I'm going to go ahead and just start by saying that this work really started back in November, and Leslie and I were sort of trying to tackle this idea of figuring out K-8 music is really the area that we wanted to focus, because we feel pretty confident that we have the secondary piece in our large comprehensive middle school and our high school, but how do we connect that all the way down to our kiddos in the K-8? And as you know, that poses all sorts of interesting scenarios for us to solve. And if this were easy, it would have been done a long time ago. And one of the things that became very clear to Leslie and I both was we don't have the answer. We didn't have it back then, but we knew the answer would be somewhere in the community. And so we're very proud of the makeup of the group. It was about 20 individuals. We had 3 board members, Lori McLaughlin, Jonathan Edmonds, and Aaron was with us for at least a third of it. We really felt it was important to have strong board representation also, so I thank you for all the long hours that you spent on that work as well. And so we started in January, and really my idea as a superintendent was let's bring a group of individuals together that represent the K-8 communities in our in-town area, and really to analyze what the current reality of K-8 music looked like. So we really needed what we would call a needs assessment done. So what does it look like now, and then how can we develop a service model that would reach 7 K-8 schools that are all extremely different and distinct in their own way. I would say that one of the only things that our K-8 share in common is a small learning community and the fact that it's K-8. In fact, not all of them. We have one school that's a 1-8 that actually will be a K-8 next year. So we're talking about very different configurations. And then allow the group to work within certain parameters so that at the end, a recommendation is drafted and that would come to me so that I could then bring it to all of you. So here we are. And so really it was around those 3 items that sort of framed our work. And then one of the things that I wanted clear at the start was, if we have a recommendation from the work group, we're gonna go with the recommendation. So whatever that is, I'm prepared to go to work for that group to make sure that it is appropriately resourced. And we'll go over with you the cost of what's come out of this work and how we made it sustainable. But the recommendation would have to pass a 3-pronged test. And those are right up there in front of you. Number 1 is the viable piece. So it has to be able to fit within the complex configurations of each of our 7 K-8 schools. The sustainability piece is another really big one. We don't want K-8 music to be implemented in such a way that it goes away. In a number of years, we want to make sure that it is financially viable and also can sustain budget shortfalls and economic downturns. That's also very, very important. If we're going to invest the time up front, we want to make sure that this is for the long haul. And then the third one, and this is really in line with our guaranteed and viable curriculum work in K-12 in all subject areas, and that is that it's standards-based. So that the music recommendation that we adopt is based on the state standards and national standards for music. And there are many different forms of music, and we have, as you know, because I've shared those in my weekly updates at length, we have those standards appropriately mapped. So we're ahead of the game also in terms of having the infrastructure built to be able to implement music. And so any questions on that before we proceed? And at the end of this, Jonathan and Lori, Aaron as well, I want to get your thoughts as well on how you found this process. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Leslie. Leslie really was at the heart of all of the work, the actual work. I was a part of the group, but really as an observer. It was just a thrill to watch the group work. And Leslie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone. So it was my responsibility for this work group to be the facilitator, and it was such a pleasure to work with this group. Just a fun collection of community members and teachers and administrators, and just truly, you know, representing each community, and they had their own ideas of what music might look like going into this. So we started, as Scott shared, just by analyzing our current reality. What is music education out in our K-8s and in our in-town schools? And everyone had a great time sharing out about that. And then what was our dream of what music education could be in the future? And one of the comments that really stuck with me is that folks really wanted our students to experience the joy of music education and to feel joy and fun at school during this time. So we often recentered around that comment as we started. We met monthly beginning in January all the way through May. So this is our June meeting officially. So we spent a lot of time talking about what we were currently doing, what we dreamed that we could do, and then started working on the reality. And let me tell you, the work group really wrestled with that a lot, and there were some frustrated members and times, especially when we started talking about what the middle school kids in music education might do, because we have some schools where we have 30 or less middle schoolers, and should they get an elective choice, and how do you build that for, you know, not every one of those kiddos maybe wants to take band or choir. What could a music elective look like for a student who's not going to opt into one of those two, and can we offer all of those elective options at a school that small? So we really wrestled with that, and you'll see we broke out a whole 6-8 elective music choice in our recommendation. We also really wrestled with instructional space. That was another hot topic of music is loud, and we need a place for music instruction to happen. And so the committee really wanted to make sure that that was included in their recommendation, and that that was brought to your attention and the public's attention around instructional space. But mostly what my time was spent doing is working around consensus. And getting a group of people from across our district to come to consensus can be tough, because we all come from different school communities. And so we did things like continuum lines and fist to 5 activities, and every night before they left me feedback either on chart paper or handing me Post-it notes, and I got to go through that every time and build our next meeting around the feedback of where we had come together and found some common ground and some areas that we still needed to work on. So again, it was such a pleasure to work with this group, and I have a whole group of folks who are ready and willing to serve on the next committee that you may need. Just shoot me an email if you need someone, because I have some great folks in the community. And I'm just really pleased to have Susanna and Adam here with us tonight, and they have just a wealth of knowledge and experience to share with us, and their reflections on the time. So.
Hi. Thank you for inviting me to speak tonight. I have to tell you how amazing it felt as a music teacher to come to that first work group and see all these members of the community already invested in a core subject that has been lacking in our district, and finally coming to a point where we can move forward to give our students what they deserve, that music education, along with a well-rounded education with all of our core subjects. So that was a common theme that I felt every single time we came to each meeting. Leslie did a great job of really reminding us that's what we're here. Whatever we choose, whatever we go forward with, we're here to make sure our students receive a music education. And already I know that our students are going to win. And because I'm a weirdo, I like to do research with peer review articles. And so by looking at different studies on different scheduling options, I know that regardless of whatever schedule is built, the students will have a positive impact. Educationally, cognitive development, it's all going to be there. So for me, I knew that piece is going to be okay. I need to focus on that sustainability aspect that Scott really wanted us to have. And my goal was, how are we going to have a sustainable job for those new music teachers coming in? Because as someone who's been a traveling music teacher, it is hard. Even just moving from between 2 schools, to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. This year was the first year that I did not have to travel during the day. Despite all the difficulties from the pandemic, this has been one of the more easier years stress-wise for me. So knew in my heart, if we want to keep our music teachers on staff and we want to attract well-qualified individuals, we need to make sure that whatever position we have for them is going to be sustainable. So I was doing my best to focus on making sure that if we have to travel, it would not be during the day. It could just be, hey, we're gonna have a whole day at this school and a whole day at that school, just so that we can feel like, and I say we, because music teachers, we are we. So that when you're at that school, you feel like you are part of that community. Because that's the other bit. When you travel, you feel isolation. I mean, there's all these events going on, and you're like, wow, that's awesome, that's amazing. Oh, it's Thursday? Shoot, I'm not gonna be there. And so you're not a part of that school community, and that's really difficult. So that was, again, one of my goals, to really make sure that whatever schedule we came up with allowed for that teacher to be a part of that community in order to build those relationships with the students, with the staff, with the individual school communities. So the two different models that we ended up coming to consensus with, the idea of artist in residence, where the students would meet 5 times a week for 2 different quarters, that felt really nice. That teacher would be able to create a community. The other thank you. The other model with teachers meeting with students at least twice a week, that also feels good, because then they have the entire school year to build a relationship and to go through all the different seasons of life and just feel that together, and again, build that community as a music program within each of those individual schools. So that's where I felt that.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks, Leslie. Good evening. I know several of you. Some of you I haven't met, so I'm going to introduce myself. Hopefully that's okay. So my name's Adam Kinsey, and we live out on Howell Prairie Road. My wife and I, Lori, sitting right here. We have 6 children, 3 in Central Howell, 2 in the high school, and 1 has graduated and is at Schmecketa now. Graduated last year in COVID, so we've been through it too. And I also want to thank the district here for accommodating our middle schooler. Sfva, who spoke earlier in the public comment, her daughter and my son both were bused from Central Howell during the day to the middle school for advanced band. And just last Thursday night, we went to their concert and had a chance to watch the kids perform, and that was really neat, and it was pretty special. They did a great job, and Mr. Miller just does an awesome job with those kids. A little bit about my family. Music is important to us, just in our family culture. We sing in church, a cappella. We've got a piano in our home. Grandpa teaches our kids how to play the piano. Last night we pulled out some gospel hymn books, harmonica and a guitar, and made a joyful noise. So we enjoy music. My wife played the flute when she went here to Silverton High School years ago, learned from Mr. Tim Duffy, who is still around. And at Christmas time, her and her family pull out the brass and play some Christmas carols. So music is important to community and for life. And so it's a privilege to sit on this work group. So in my remarks here, I want to reach back to the listening session that Scott hosted in the Central Howell community, and he had a number of those with each of the K-8 schools. And music came up as a common theme in all of our schools, and I just want to say that at Central Howell, we have enjoyed the privilege of really work done by the parents and community of years past, where music was important to the Central Howell community, and it was part of our budget, and that was carried into present. So one of the things I'll mention later is one of the concerns we had is in this K-8 work group recommendation, we didn't want to lose what the school had already, and that definitely came through in the recommendations. Just to comment on those listening sessions, they were really good. I appreciated the follow-up, Scott. I would encourage the district to consider doing those again. And in a sense, we're having one of those in the Central Health community around a specific topic right now, which is around class size and enrollment. And so I'm in full support of respectful dialogue between parents and administration, and I'm glad we can have that in this school community. I could talk more about previous experiences in years gone by with other school districts, but we'll let that alone here. Let's get back to the K-8 music work group. It was a great experience. I enjoyed it. It was constructive. And I want to thank all of you here, Scott and Leslie especially, for that experience. When we talked about starting with a goal, I wanted something where all of our children could have a music education and a music experience, where there'd be opportunities for the basics, and then options for the kids to explore, and some are gifted, and to have the option to be able to excel and explore their talents, and then to have performance opportunities and things like that. And so it's good to see that our recommendations, I think, have some models that support performance opportunities for the kids. They can feel good at the end of some amount of time of practicing, and they can perform for moms and dads and grandpas and feel good about their performance. And that's an important thing for kids growing up. So I believe that the recommendations that we've got up there that you guys can see do align with my own personal goals that I had coming into that session. I also want to say that I think these recommendations are a basic level for the district, and it's where we should start. And as budget and time allows, as we grow and learn, I think we can advance from here. But I really hope we don't go backwards. But I think we should view this as a basic level. We had a number of challenges in front of us, and I think some of these have been mentioned. Just the diversity of our K-8 schools, the distance between them. You guys know all about that, so I'll leave that. The budget shortfall seemed to be also a challenge in front of us, but Scott kept assuring us, just put it on the table. He set the tone to where let's have a good, better, best sort of strategy, and that if whatever we recommended, it would be his job to figure it out. So there you go, Scott. It's not your job to figure it out.
No pressure.
We also had a bunch of opinionated and passionate folks. My goodness, but we had fun too. Leslie, you did an awesome job coordinating it and getting us all to come in alignment at the end, but everybody cared. And so it was a good session that way. But I want to commend Leslie for your work. We also had some concerns from the Central Howell community when people learned that this was going on, lest we lose what we already had, and we're not. We're still getting the halftime teacher that we had in the past, and music is still part of the school. So in the end, I'm also, as a Central Howell parent, glad that I could be a voice for the other schools in the district as well, right? This isn't a selfish thing. I'm glad to see everybody's getting this opportunity. Some of the toughest discussions were around the middle school students. How do we get them an elective when their plate's already full, and when there's no classroom space for them to do the music in? So that you'll also see that. I assume you've all read the recommendation already, but you'll see that in the recommendation that space is a consideration for music that we need to plan for, and hopefully this gives you the imperative to kick off things that will eventually result in more space. We recognize it's not going to happen overnight. I also want to comment on band. I mentioned how Travis went to the middle school. This was a great experience, and we have in the recommendation that there can be an after-school band opportunity, but in time we really hope that can be an in-school opportunity to feed into the high school more band students that are prepared for high school and really have a good band program. So just to wrap it up, thank you. This K-8 recommendation is a beginning, not an ending. I think as the district responds to it, I would just encourage the trust, transparency, and truth of speaking back to the school communities of this is what you're going to do, and continue the dialogue and adjust and learn from here. So thank you, Scott and Leslie.
Maybe what we could do now, board, is for those of you served in the work group, I'd like to give you a chance to share your thoughts, your experiences. You were in the thick of it with Adam and Sasana
Right.
as active participants.
You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Oh, you can.
Okay. I very much enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoy getting to know the community, and this is a great opportunity to do some of that. I enjoy being able to engage in meaningful dialogue, and this was an opportunity to do that. It was fun to hear a lot of the ideas. It was really, I think, compelling the way that the conversation went and how everybody did listen to all the ideas as they were brought up. I'll second what Adam said. Good job with the moderating and keeping everything moving, facilitating. I'm really grateful to see us moving in a direction that's going to provide more opportunities. I don't have anything new to say, but I'm seconding a lot of things I think here. The idea that a number of students won't have had an opportunity outside of this to explore what may be an intrinsic talent that they have. And I think the world needs more music, so all the better.
Sure. Well, here we go. Yeah, I think what I found really, I got to sit back, and then I had some nice exchanges with some of the instructors, and that was very enriching for me. It's been, over 6 years since we've had music in this district, and so it just goes to show you that when something is removed, how long it can take to weave it back in. I'm very happy with the recommendations. I do think it is a good baseline, but as long as we continue to keep moving it up a notch and not letting it get static, I want to see it grow. And I was really touched by a lot of the things. I actually enjoyed hearing the different individuals speak. Sure, sometimes, everyone has their opinion and they want to have a certain goal or something unfold, but I thought all in all the conversations were very good and well-rounded, and they were much needed. So I'm very pleased with how things were done, and thank you, Leslie, you did a very good job. Yeah, it was very nice to have the interaction and the exchanges with everyone, and it's an exciting time, so I look forward to seeing this next year. Thank you both.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like an echo here.
Oh.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the last few meetings, but the first few I was able to attend. I was just impressed about, again, the passion that our community has for music and the arts. As a parent of 3 kids here in the district that all went through a K-8 school, all went to Evergreen. Now I've graduated 2 of them, and one at the high school. Arts and music have always been their passion. And we all know, as I'll speak as a K-8 parent now, we know that music organically has happened in our K-8 schools. We have many teachers and many volunteers that have spent a lot of time fostering the love of music in the K-8 communities. But to now have something formal that we can use again, sustainable, standards-based, hopefully sheltered from budgetary issues. Now we have something formal that we can offer each and every one of our students at all of our schools. And I'm just excited to see that go forward. And again, I think the big part is, this is a jump-off point. And hopefully we can continue to expand on that. Pray for continued budget increases and more students to come back, which will help that. But again, this is a start, and I'm just so impressed by how our community came together. Lots of passionate people, lots of opinionated, and I say that in a good way, sharing their thoughts, sharing their passions, and that's how you come up with and solve a complex problem. This is not easy. This is probably one of the hardest conundrums we got in front of our districts to solve this problem, and I think this group did an amazing job tackling that. So I'm just overly impressed on the output, and looking forward to see how this curriculum develops over the next few years.
Thanks, Aaron. Leslie, maybe you could spend just a minute on talking about how we've resourced the recommendation.
So we are currently in process of hiring 3 additional full-time music teachers for our K-8 schools. and we are using our student investment account budget under well-rounded education to pay for those 3 teachers. Part of this process has been so impactful for our SIA planning because we have had all these listening sessions and the work groups. We have had so much community feedback to direct us in how we spend that money, which has just been fantastic. And so we know that we have students who need more well-rounded education in our district, and this is a great way to really make sure all of our students are getting that education while also serving our community.
Thank you, Leslie. I just want to reiterate something that Adam Kenzie mentioned, that is that this is a base. And so in order to make this sustainable, we want to start with this base. And I think that the fact that we were able to get this type of a recommendation done, and arguably what was one of the, probably the worst year for public education in our country on record, I think is really saying something about the strength of this community and the passion this community has for music. It's really, really something special to have been a part of. I also want to make sure that that I mention that working on a gifted team is truly special. I think that comes about once in a person's career. You get a team that is truly gifted, and when that happens, it's because you have truly gifted individuals that you get to work with. And I want to give Leslie all the credit in the world for truly being the pioneer of this, the whole framework of how we were going to get there, which, you know, back in November when we were tossing around these ideas, it was hard to conceptualize actually sitting in front of you in June with a recommendation. There was a lot of pressure there, but Leslie truly executed that at an exceptional level, and I'm very grateful. I'm also grateful to Adam and Sasanna and the other 20 work group members. They showed up every single night, and it was a very spirited group that we had put together, and it just made it so much more fun to watch the group tussle with these really challenging items. And I would sit to the side on purpose and just watch, and only several times was I asked to give my opinion to maybe move something forward. And I think that's what is so fun about working in Silver Falls. We have such gifted people who come to the table and really just want to do what's best for our students and to give our students the best possible experience they can have before they move on. One other thing I wanted to mention is the K-8 listening sessions. So many wonderful things came out of that. This would be Exhibit A. But that will be a year-round thing in Silver Falls going forward. Hopefully we don't have to do them in the late fall, early winter under tents with heaters. Although we got it done during COVID, it was a wonderful experience. We just finished our in-town listening sessions. We're moving to the middle school and high school in the fall. So that will be a year-round effort, and we'll start back with the K-8s as we come back into next year. So, any questions from the board on anything that was presented to you tonight?
Go for it.
I have just 2 comments. One, good job. I think that facilitating that type of group, it would be difficult. And so I respect that you guys came to, and the whole group, thank you for coming to consensus, and it sounds like a really solid baseline plan. And the other thing that I wanted to say just echoes what Adam said about having a performance. That was the important thing to me in this whole thing, is that students had a chance to perform. And even if students don't carry their music careers into high school, being able to have those performances and work together as a team towards an authentic project that they can be proud of is a super important experience for every kid to have. So thank you for that work for all of those kids.
I just have a quick question. First of all, thank you and to our 3 board members for the time spent on doing this and doing it so successfully. I'm curious for the next step of, I see references here to allowing schools to sort of figure out how does this work best for your school community, which makes a lot of sense. is there going to be a framework for how that's developed? Is there going to be, are there any guidelines in which the principals would make those plans?
So our principals are all on the hiring committee because they all want to hire their own instructor. So they've all brought on extra work for themselves. But each school is sharing a teacher. And so those two principals have to work on the schedule together collaboratively so that the teacher has a sustainable schedule, like Sasanna was sharing, because that was very important to the committee. And so our group in particular looked at two mock schedules to see how it would work. And we actually drafted out full schedules of what a teacher's day might look like. So we recommended to principals that either they do 2 quarters of music for 30 minutes every day, and so they could trade quarter 1 at Butte Creek, quarter 2 at Scotts Mills, quarter 3 at Butte Creek, quarter 4 at Scotts Mills. Or they could do 2 days a week of 30 minutes all year round. So that would be a teacher at Butte Creek 3 days a week and the same teacher at Scotts Mills 2 days a week, for example. The minutes, when you calculate that, is exactly the same. So that's the minimum number of minutes that we agreed as an admin team that they had to have music into the school day. Just like we do 90 minutes of reading and 60 minutes of math, and so that's a normed number for everyone's music instruction schedule.
Okay. All right. And Robert Frost and Mark Twain already have music. Is that correct?
Yes, and we shared that information of their minimum instructional time with the work group. And actually, Robert Frost and Mark Twain are both increasing their music instruction to be in alignment with what the K-8s are doing. So all of our elementary students will receive the same amount of music instruction moving forward.
That's excellent. Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it. Yeah.
So everyone knows math and music is closely related, so I made a math equation to share here. That boom whackers plus recorders multiplied by lots of energy equals joy in all of our schools.
Perfect. Well said. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
So you're up next with the superintendent report.
I wanted to take a minute, Jonathan, just to thank everybody for such an incredibly challenging year. We thought last year was difficult. I don't think anything prepared us for what we were going to expect the minute we got into the 2021-2022 school year. Really, the word tsunami comes to mind because of so many things that were unexpected coming down to us from other governmental agencies and, of course, brought on by the pandemic. And I feel not only will we remember this year for the rest of our lives, but I'll remember each of you going through this. The 8 of us, along with my teammates, has really been memorable, and I would even say special. I'm not sure if I would volunteer to do it all over again as a second-year superintendent, or coming into the pandemic as a principal and coming out of the pandemic as a second-year superintendent. But I think the bonds that were formed through this between ourselves and our community, Silver Falls community, has been something pretty special. And I think all of that culminated at the Silverton High School graduation. And if you had the pleasure to be there to watch all of our seniors graduate, it was truly special. In fact, if you just looked at the emotions on the faces of our students, the emotions on the faces of their parents, our teachers who were there, as well as our district's leaders, you wouldn't even know that it was pouring down rain. And that's what makes Silver Falls so special to me. I went home soaking wet, but nothing but smiles, and that's exactly what I told Dan once we got back to the central office and had a chance to dry off, and we've been smiling about it ever since. So I think that was just a perfect capper on the school year, something we'll never forget. And you know, I'm not sure, Jonathan, what your takeaways were, but I'm sure they're pretty congruent with mine on that.
Very congruent. And I want to say kudos to those kids.
Yes.
They were almost universally in amazing spirits, considering the sky opened up on us at just about the time they started walking out. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's, I'm going to use that as my time, the music presentation, and I wanted to say that on behalf of our school district, and I believe I'll give the rest of my time over to my team that have some updates.
Okay.
Hi, Jonathan, thanks. I don't have any new information other than the June 1st enrollment report, which hasn't changed from the last well over a year, down 10%. And we have posted all of the budget documents from the budget committee meetings in April and May for people to go back and look at. And we do have the resolution in the action items tonight to adopt the approved budget that the committee approved back in May. But on the enrollment side, we have seen at least some positive signs over the last couple of months that we haven't yet previously seen since we came back. And the kindergarten roundups have been pretty strong at most of the schools, and inquiries from parents who may have taken their students elsewhere who are looking to come back. I still don't think we'll get back to where we were anytime soon. It is a statewide and a national trend, but I think that we are seeing some more positive signs than we've seen for quite some time. So.
Very good. Any questions for Steve?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, so that's going to move us into our discussion items. We have a number of policies in final read tonight. I believe there's about 9 of them, maybe. I'll just open the floor. Anybody want to discuss any of those policies tonight? Okay. Well, that's going to bring us to our second public comment, which is specific to discussion and action items tonight. Anybody like to address the board at this time? Anybody online?
Nobody online?
No. Just give it another few seconds
Sure.
in case here. And actually, while we're waiting on that, I just realized as I was looking at this, you just realized the same thing.
I was gonna bring it to your attention.
Yeah, we didn't have the action item for the policies, but I think we can wing that one.
Yep.
I missed that on my review. I apologize for that.
Me too.
Nobody else caught it either, just want to say. It's not just up to you two.
Okay, nothing. All right. Well, we are going to move on. So at this point, we are going to officially close the budget hearing portion of tonight's meeting, which, as I mentioned before, is going to be an action item. And we have 2 action items on the docket. One is to approve the policies that were published for final reading. And I'm going to go ahead and start with that one. That's the one we neglected to get added, but I think it was implied they're on final reading. So
There's 10 total.
10, thank you. There are 10 policies.
I move to approve the 10 policies in final reading stage on the agenda.
So moved. Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
All in favor?
Excellent. And so now we also have, it's time to approve the resolution that we all have it in front of us. Somebody's going to just need to make the motion to do that. This is for the budget for next year.
I move to approve resolution number 6-13-2022 to adopt the approved budget, make appropriations, and impose and categorize property taxes for the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right. With that, this is your opportunity to mention anything you'd like to have us be thinking about for future agenda development meetings. Anything on anybody's mind you want to mention tonight?
I just wanted to remind us that we talked about board goal development being discussed at the work session.
Right.
And I'm not going to be there. I'm just going to say I'm not going to be there.
Okay.
I have one. I was wondering if we could maybe sometime in a work session, maybe discuss, you know, in reference to what happened at one of our rural schools, if we could maybe talk about what it looks like, how the police coordinates with the district, you know, if something were to happen. And I say that because we can't ignore what's been in the news regarding regarding lives. And so I was wondering, it would be very nice if we could understand, not only as a board but a community as well, how we coordinate with law enforcement and how they work with us and what that looks like. Probably a work session be more informative, and I think much needed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so with that, we will shortly be moving into executive session under ORS 1926602D to conduct deliberations with persons designated to carry on labor negotiations, as well as 1926602H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation and/or litigation likely to be filed. All right, we are back out of executive session with our return to open session, and without objection, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.